You are standing at the side of the crib. The room is dark, the house is quiet, and your baby is fast asleep. And then it happens. A small, fleeting smile crosses their face. No one caused it. Nothing changed. They are just lying there, eyes closed and smiling at something only they can see. You feel it somewhere in your chest before you have words for it. Most parents assume it means their baby is dreaming of something wonderful. A few wonder if it is just gas. Almost nobody asks what is actually happening in the developing brain that produces that expression, where it comes from, what it signals, and what it is quietly telling you about the mind your baby is building in the dark. That is exactly what we are going to break down today, and by the end of it, you will never watch your baby smile in their sleep the same way again. It is not what you think it is, and it is also more than you think it is. The first thing to understand is that a newborn's sleep smile is not the same as the social smile that will emerge around 6 to 8 weeks. When your newborn smiles in their sleep in those very first days and weeks, it is not a conscious response to a thought, a dream, or an emotion in the way adults experience those things. It is called a spontaneous smile, or in clinical terms, an endogenous smile. Endogenous simply means it originates from inside, from internal neurological activity rather than from anything in the external environment. It is generated by the brain itself, not triggered by anything the baby sees, hears, or feels from outside. What is producing it is activity in the lower brain regions, the brainstem and the limbic system, which are the most developed parts of a newborn's brain at birth. These regions handle the oldest, most fundamental aspects of human experience: survival, arousal, emotion, and the basic regulation of body states. When they fire during sleep, the face moves. And one of the things faces do when those regions activate is smile. So the sleep smile is real. It is just not conscious. Not yet. What sleep stage it is happening in, and why that matters. Newborns spend an extraordinary amount of time in what is called active sleep, the developmental precursor to what adults know as REM sleep. In the first weeks of life, active sleep accounts for roughly half of all sleep time, sometimes more. By comparison, adults spend only about 20% of their sleep in REM. This is not an accident. Active sleep in early infancy is doing something critical and irreplaceable. It is the primary state in which the developing brain processes, organizes, and consolidates everything it has taken in during waking hours. Neural circuits are being tested. Connections are being strengthened or pruned. The architecture of the brain is being actively constructed, largely during sleep, largely during this specific stage of sleep. Active sleep looks busy. Babies twitch, flutter their eyelids, make small sounds, move their limbs, and, most noticeably, change facial expressions. Frowns, grimaces, pouts, and yes, smiles all pass across a newborn's face during active sleep, like weather crossing a landscape. These expressions are the outward evidence of a brain that is anything but resting. The sleep smile is not separate from this process. It is part of it. The question everyone asks, are they dreaming? This is the question every parent wants answered, and it deserves an honest response. The truthful answer is that we do not know with certainty. Dream research in infants is inherently limited because infants cannot tell us what they experience, and the subjective experience of dreaming is not something that can be directly measured by any existing technology. Anyone who tells you definitively that newborns do or do not dream is going further than the evidence allows. What we do know is this: the brain activity during infant active sleep shares characteristics with adult REM sleep, the stage most associated with dreaming in adults. We also know that the visual cortex, the auditory cortex, and the memory-related structures of the brain show activation during this stage. Something is happening. The lights are on in parts of the brain associated with experience. Whether that activity produces anything resembling conscious dream experience as adults know it is genuinely unknown. The cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious awareness, is still very underdeveloped in newborns. This makes complex narrative dreaming unlikely in the earliest weeks. But as the weeks and months pass and the cortex begins to mature, the picture shifts. By 3 or 4 months, there is increasing reason to think that something more experiential may be beginning to emerge during sleep. Not necessarily story-like dreams the way adults have them, but perhaps impressions, sensations, echoes of the day's experiences processed in the sleeping brain. The smile you see may be nothing more than a brainstem signal creating a muscle movement, or it may be something just beginning to flicker into experience. The honest answer is probably somewhere between the two, depending on the age of your baby. What it is definitely building, whatever the subjective experience or lack of it, the neural activity underlying those sleep smiles is doing something concrete and measurable. Every time the brain fires those circuits during active sleep, it is practicing. The emotional circuitry, the pathways associated with positive states, the connections between the lower brain regions and the developing cortex above, all of it is being exercised and reinforced. The sleep smile is the face's readout of that exercise. Think of it as the brain running a diagnostic. Positive emotional states are being processed. The relevant neural circuits are being activated. The pathways are being laid down that will eventually produce real, responsive, social smiling when the time comes. This is not a metaphor. The true social smile that emerges around 6 to 8 weeks, the one that responds to your face, your voice, your presence, does not appear from nowhere. It is the culmination of weeks of internal neural rehearsal that happened largely while your baby was asleep and you were watching them smile at nothing. You were watching the foundation being built. When the real smile arrives, there is a moment somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks that every parent remembers. You lean over your baby, you speak, you smile, and they look back at you with unmistakable recognition and intention, and they smile back. Not a fleeting reflex, not a muscle twitch, a response, direct, specific, and aimed entirely at you. This is called the social smile, and developmental pediatricians consider it one of the most significant milestones of the entire first year. It marks the point at which your baby's cortex has developed enough to process your face, connect it to positive experience, and produce a deliberate communicative response. The difference between the sleep smile and this moment is the difference between a system running in test mode and a system coming fully online. Before that social smile appears reliably, it is worth knowing what the normal timeline looks like. Most babies produce their first genuine social smile somewhere between 5 and 8 weeks. Premature babies typically follow an adjusted timeline based on their corrected age rather than their birth date. If you are approaching 3 months and have not yet seen a clear, responsive smile, it is worth raising with your pediatrician, not because something is necessarily wrong, but because social smiling is a milestone that professionals use as a developmental checkpoint. What the absence of sleep smiles might mean, and what it probably doesn't. Some parents notice their newborn smiling in sleep constantly. Others barely notice it at all, and begin to wonder if they are missing something. The honest answer is that the frequency and visibility of sleep smiles varies enormously between babies. Differences in sleep stage cycling, in how much active sleep a given baby spends near the surface versus deeply under, and simply in the expressiveness of individual babies, all of these factors affect how often and how visibly the sleep smile appears. Not seeing frequent sleep smiles in a newborn is not in itself a developmental concern. It is the social smile at 6 to 8 weeks that carries developmental weight, not the frequency of spontaneous expressions during sleep. What does matter is the overall pattern of active sleep, alertness during wakeful periods, and the eventual emergence of social responsiveness. Those are the things to watch and, if concerned, to discuss with a professional. What to do when you see it tonight. There is a temptation when you see your sleeping baby smile to do something, to reach in, to match the smile with your own, to make a sound, to somehow participate in whatever is happening. Resist that temptation. What your baby's brain is doing in that moment does not need your help. It is running exactly the process it is supposed to run, in the stage of sleep that is doing the most important work, building the structures that will eventually allow your baby to smile at you on purpose. The best thing you can do is exactly nothing. Let the sleep continue undisturbed. Let the brain do its work. Watch if you want to. That is completely understandable. That smile will do something to you every time. But then step back. Turn the light off. Close the door quietly. Because what you just witnessed is not your baby smiling at a dream, or passing gas, or doing something random and meaningless. What you witnessed is a developing brain rehearsing joy, running the circuits that will one morning produce the specific, deliberate, world-changing smile that is aimed directly at your face and nobody else's. That smile is coming. The sleep smile is how it gets here. So tonight, when you see those lips curve upward in the dark, don't try to explain it away, and don't project too much onto it either. Just recognize it for what it is. A brain learning to be happy, quietly, in the dark, right on schedule. If this gave you a new way to see your baby sleep, share it with a parent who needed to hear it. And if you want to understand more of what your baby is doing when you think they are doing nothing, subscribe to the channel.